Hey all, and welcome to Shadow Space, and we're commenting on another BCP video. This one is titled, Socialist Mayor Begs Millionaires to Come Back After Telling Them Bye as Democrats Turn Against Her. This was uploaded May 25th. This is being recorded May 26th, and link is in the description, if I can.
I think the claims that millionaires are going to leave our state are like super overblown, and if the ones that leave, like bye.
One other story I wanted to bring to your attention today.
Okay.
One of the worst mayors in America. Now you might be expecting me to say Mamdani. No. This person is called Katie Wilson. She is in Seattle, and it's very, very strange situation. But Seattle wound up throwing out their incumbent mayor and electing this complete and total communist named Katie Wilson. And never had a job, I think lived in her parents' basement. I mean, just a very strange situation for a very large city. She was a barista, I think, and she
There was
joined
someone who
a
was running
barista
that was
union rally
like that,
while she was
where
mayor-elect. And
they weren't
expressed
doing anything.
her
Is that
displeasure
her?
with
I have no
probably
idea.
the most recognizable business in Seattle. What would you say? Outside of the Seahawks, what's the number one thing you know about Seattle? Starbucks. So while she was mayor-elect, she goes out to this union rally and maybe walked the picket line. And she said, quote, at the time, here's the quote she said at the time, "I'm not buying Starbucks, and you should not either." Now she's having to walk it back. Starbucks is thinking about leaving Seattle. I think they're building a huge facility in Nashville, Tennessee, and I think maybe a 2,000-person corporate office down there.
Yeah, that's... From what I can tell, and it's possible I'm wrong, they're setting up a second headquarters? I don't know if the plan is to eventually close the headquarters in Seattle and just make the one in Nashville their home headquarters. I don't know if the point is to keep both of these offices open. I don't quite know what their plan is.
She's having to walk it back. Now the mayor says, "I want them here, and I believe they want to be here." I don't know, Starbucks. I don't think I'd fall for this mea culpa. That's my view.
Well, see, I go back to the hearing where Elizabeth Warren was like, I need to test your character. I need to know that you can't just constantly say yes to every single thing that Trump says. Why do these people think that just because they get on social media and they say, Starbucks, you have to stay here because we need you to stay here, why do they think they can say that and Starbucks is just going to say, well, boy golly gee, I guess I should just stay there. I guess I should just subject myself to these higher taxes that I know they're going to put on me and just let it happen to me. Let them take the knife and let them just cut a great big gouge, bigger than they usually do, directly out of the arm, and then just take it. Okay.
I think her theories are corporations are bad, people who are successful are bad, and that's what Starbucks is, a successful corporation. More to come.
Boy, 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 boy. So we got to talk about woke Seattle Mayor Katie Wilson, who is now facing a whole lot of backlash over her tax-to-rich policies that her and the Democrats at the state level support, that is leading to big companies like Starbucks leaving the state, right? Businesses are currently engaging in a mass exodus of Washington due to their taxation policies. And you have individuals who are speaking out about this, saying that, hey, Seattle, Washington, they can't survive this over the long term, right? Like, the state needs revenue, and these socialists are driving out all of the revenue with their stupid comments and their insane policies.
There's so many people that are outraged because over 100,000 individuals and taxpayers and residents signed in.
That's the constant conflict between the old establishment Democrats and the new Marxist Democrats. There is no unity in the Democrat Party. They cannot agree whether they should go back to the old Democrat values or whether they should adopt the new Democrat values. There is a natural split in the party between these two camps. The ones who recognize that despite the fact that the system is flawed, they need that system to function in order to do the things they want to do. And the people who want to burn all those systems down and just make something new from the ground up.
Opposition, which was a record, and lawmakers signed the bill anyway. To me, that's not leadership, that's defiance. And it's a fail. It's not a failure of democracy, but it's a failure to listen to it. When you have so many people who are not necessarily always engaged, but a record number sign in to voice opposition to something.
Well, but they want everyone to be able to vote. That means that you want someone who has no idea about the issues, who has no real opinion one way or another, to be able to go into that voting booth and say, this is what I think is best. That is what they consider to be acceptable democracy. But it doesn't just end there, because they also want unlimited immigration. They want no vetting and to have people be able to just come into this country and claim citizenship whenever they want, for basically no reason whatsoever. If you come over, you just get citizenship, just instantly. It's done. So obviously these people are not going to know the politics, they're not going to know the culture, they're not going to know the legislation, they're not going to know how the process works, and yet they're going to be able to vote in elections. With no voter ID, you don't need a voter ID, you don't need to re-register to vote, you just walk into a booth, you place your vote, and you walk out. No questions asked.
Yeah, and not to be
This is the world that Democrats want. If you are a Democrat and you don't want this, I don't know what to tell you.
seriously or listened to.
Considering the people who believe in burning everything down and starting over again have no reservations whatsoever grabbing a gun and hunting people that they think deserve it.
Is tragic. And I think this is, again, we're seeing what happened. They passed a record 9.4 billion in taxes last year in 2025, then added this 9.9% income tax in 2026. And the cumulative burden is now driving all of the people that are, the major contributors to the economy out of the state. It's accelerating the exodus. You're seeing, real business leaders leaving the state, from, photographers to, the best day spa, to fintech companies, to major tech companies. Just a wide variety of businesses are now saying enough is enough. I can't.
Wasn't there someone just a few weeks ago from the Seattle Business Association that gave all these numbers? People are leaving. This is the reason that she's doing this, because the data has come out that has proved that no, people are leaving, and people are considering leaving in large numbers.
Can't do this anymore. We can't afford it. And unfortunately, if you, look at history, this isn't going to just stop at millionaires. And that's what lawmakers are already admitting. This is going to hit everyone. And lawmakers are calling it a millionaire tax today, but ask them what the
And you also in Seattle and Washington now have all of these trans refugee migrants from red states who your citizens are demanding that you release emergency funds to help house and provide government assistance for.
threshold will be in 10 years, and they've already, admitted it'll drop. And so the foot is in the door, and history tells us exactly what's going to come next.
Yeah, well, they don't care.
Yeah, history tells us exactly what's going to come next, which is why you have the backlash
When you hate capitalism and you want to see it fall, the idea that your credit rating goes bust and the whole thing goes belly up is what you're waiting for. That's the end result. That's how you know that what you're doing is working.
against the woke mayor here. Okay, you have individuals who are joining in criticizing her and her anti-business policy. So without further ado, let's get into this.
Starbucks has announced it will eliminate a little more than 250 corporate jobs, including positions here in Seattle. Business leaders suggest it is another warning sign that the job market is cooling fast after the approval of new city and state taxes. KOMO senior reporter Chris Daniels is live at the company's SoDo headquarters tonight to explain. Chris.
Yeah, Molly, Washington's former governor and other civic leaders are suggesting that recent statements and policies are forming a national perception about this state and city's business climate. At the brand new Barnes & Noble in downtown Seattle, you can get a civic history lesson on the past and the present.
Seattle is, in some ways, at a bit of a tipping point, and we should take nothing for granted.
That's where we stood with Downtown Seattle Association President John.
Don't those homeless people know that you have all the food that you need right here in this Barnes & Noble?
Scholes, who has seen the other stories written in the past week. The New York Times, Washington Post, and Wall Street Journal, all with articles mentioning Seattle Mayor.
Seattle Socialist Mayor taunts the rich as rift with Starbucks widens. Seattle voters elected Mayor Katie Wilson as tensions arose over wealth inequality, but as Starbucks, one of the city's most iconic companies, expands in Nashville, she's finding her something, and then it cuts off. Seattle's mayor waves goodbye to prosperity. Starbucks retreats from Seattle after the socialist mayor urged a boycott. Seattle turns hostile to the great businesses it made. Starbucks is moving jobs from Washington state to Tennessee, and it isn't alone in looking elsewhere.
Katie Wilson by name.
No, it's
for
not.
Taunting the rich, fighting with Starbucks, and waving goodbye to prosperity.
Bye.
Well, I think the tone and tenor and words matter if you're leading a city.
It may be impacting perception and reality. Data shows visitors are still pouring into the city, like Sheila Campbell of Colorado in town for a cruise.
We just went to the Needle. That was pretty cool.
And while the residential population continues to climb, job growth is stagnant in Seattle, with worker foot traffic still at 60% of pre-pandemic levels, and brick and mortar retail jobs also down by double digits, at a time when former Washington Governor Christine Gregoire is warning state policies may continue the trends.
But I left office with a budget of $33 billion. And the budget today is $80 billion. I think that's a little bit too much of a growth. I would suggest to you, we don't really have an income problem. We have a spending problem.
If the problem is that as you spend more, you have to find more sources of revenue so that you can maintain that level of spending. You can't increase this significantly but then have no plan for how you're going to increase this. It doesn't work that way. You will always be at a deficit, and the more you increase your expenditures, the greater deficit you will be over time.
He's right. I mean, the state budget's
You can't just consume, you also have to produce.
bigger than it's ever been, and the city budget is bigger than it's ever been. So voters, businesses, I don't know if they're getting back the returns that we all deserve.
And complicating matters, Wilson ran a campaign that included talk about taxing businesses even more to help offset a growing budget hole.
Would you give her any advice on that?
And this isn't even just wealthy businesses. This is just businesses. This is literally the lifeblood of your city that she's saying, no, we're just going to take a little bit more.
Seattle doesn't need more business taxes. We need more businesses in Seattle paying taxes.
Exactly.
The story is being chronicled in real time and will perhaps be a cautionary tale on store shelves in the years ahead. Washington Governor Bob Ferguson has not responded directly to Gregoire's claim, which carries more weight because Gregoire, like Ferguson, is a Democrat who served as Attorney General before serving as governor. Now,
yeah, that's a big deal. That's a huge deal. When you have a former Democrat governor coming out and saying, hey, We don't have a revenue problem. We have a spending problem.
Well,
You know.
the only people who don't know that are people who are convinced that you can spend an unlimited amount of money and that's completely acceptable. Those are the
things have
only
gotten out of
people who would
control
think
on
that this
subject,
would work.
right? When you got your own Democrats coming out and saying, look, guys, we're going too far with this. This whole tax the rich stuff, we're just driving businesses out of state. We're driving away our revenue. This is working against us. This is not resulting in the outcome that we wanted.
Wilson in recent days has credited Starbucks and Amazon for spending millions of dollars on housing and homelessness, but those comments have not gained the same amount of traction as her now viral and dismissive wave. Live outside the Starbucks world headquarters in...
Yeah, well, that's just kind of how it goes, right? When you make comments like that, of course, that's going to get more attention than the positive comments that she's now...
Seattle can't survive this. Critics hammer socialist mayor after Starbucks reversal. Critics warn Katie Wilson leftist policies will drive businesses out of Seattle.
Giving in order to clean up her mess, right? Because that's what she's doing, right? She's basically begging these companies to stay after telling them, oh, it's okay if you leave. Bye. Bye. Right? Oh, crazy liberal white woman. Bye. Right? Like, come on now. It was not a smart thing to say, but she was trying to virtue signal to the far left. And that virtue signal...
Look at me. I hate corporations. I told them to go kick rocks. Look at how bold I am. Look at how much I don't care about them or their feelings, even though you represent them. This is what's humorous, is that these people that you say are billionaires, are all these horrible people, are your citizens. They are citizens of your state. They are citizens of your city. You are saying that some of your citizens are trash garbage who aren't doing enough. And funnily enough, that isn't the people who do nothing but try to survive and do drugs all day.
It's backfiring, and she knows it is. That's why she's coming out, and she's now reversing her stance. She's begging them to stay because she knows that her comments have real impact, right? So let's read here. Seattle's Democratic mayor, Katie Wilson's sudden about-face on Starbucks is fueling fresh fears that progressive politics and anti-business rhetoric are driving jobs, investment, and major employers out of deep blue cities.
Because arguably you could do jobs and investment by just having local shops. I talked about this in one other time that we were talking about Starbucks, that you could just buy out the empty storefront and just make another coffee shop. You don't necessarily, like the one guy said, you don't necessarily need the billionaires. You need the jobs that those billionaires provide. You need product. You need people producing things and selling those things that they produce.
Wilson, who previously urged residents to boycott the Seattle-based coffee giant, admitted in an interview...
Hold on. We're back.
...published Sunday that her comments, quote, caused more harm than good as criticism mounts over the city's business climate and the company's growing investment outside Washington state. The Socialist mayor's reversal comes as the corporation pours $100 million into a major Tennessee expansion and plans thousands of new jobs there, reigniting concerns that companies are increasingly choosing lower tax, business-friendly southern U.S. states for future growth, aka red states. Okay, that's what they're choosing. They're choosing Republican, conservative states. Okay, let's be accurate about what they're choosing and why they're choosing it. Is because the leadership actually creates a...
Hold on, sorry. Cause more harm than good. This amounts with the business climate. Company's growing investment outside of Washington state. This corporation pours $100 million into a major Tennessee expansion. Plans thousands of new jobs there, reignited concerns the company's Companies are increasingly choosing lower tax, business-friendly southern U.S. states for future
Choosing lower
growth.
tax, business-friendly southern U.S. states for conservative states. Okay, let's be accurate about what they're choosing and why they're choosing it. Is because the leadership actually creates a business-friendly environment. Critics quickly seized on the controversy as evidence. Seattle's leftist policies are becoming increasingly hostile to business. Quote, if Starbucks doesn't leave Seattle, they're stupid. Tim Young, a media fellow at the Heritage
Because
Foundation.
I guess at that point, it doesn't even matter if small businesses rise up because they're going to be taxed so heavily that it's not even going to matter.
Wrote on X. Young blasted Wilson to Fox News Digital, arguing the socialist mayor lacks the real world experience needed to understand the economic consequences of anti-business policies and rhetoric. Quote, Mayor Wilson is what happens when a spoiled child whose parents have been there to correct for all their financial issues for years is put into a place of authority.
Or someone who's never run a city before gets put in charge of running a city.
Young said she has no concept of consequences for her actions, especially when dealing with other people's money. Facts, right? Facts. I mean, that's most socialists. Okay, this is why you see these issues popping up about blue states in these blue cities. Okay, you don't really hear too much about this, in red states, red cities, because we know how to live within our means, right? Democrats, on the other hand, apparently have no clue how to do that.
Well, live within your means, or understand that in order to spend more money, you have to make more money.
Seattle, nor any other jurisdiction in the world can survive someone with literally no relevant life or business experience to run it, he added. Others frame Wilson's walkback as a sign that Seattle's progressive leaders are beginning to recognize the economic stakes surrounding major employers like Starbucks.
Honestly, it'll just be a matter of time. It'll depend on the backlash that she gets from the extreme left, who hate the corporations, who expect her to say things like, who expect her to wave away the corporations because they're evil and harmful and no one would want them there.
Quote, Seattle Mayor Katie Wilson walked back Starbucks boycott as Nashville expansion raises the stakes, conservative commentator Jason Rantz wrote on X. Conservative radio host Ari Hoffman blasted Seattle leaders in a post on X, writing that the city is, quote, once again a national embarrassment. Quote, this time, thanks to Socialist Mayor Katie Wilson telling everyone to boycott Starbucks the day she gets elected. Then Starbucks announces they are leaving, and when asked about Capital Flight, she says bye and giggles. Hoffman wrote. Yeah, certainly.
She first says that it isn't even going to happen. And then she says that to all the people who want to go, she's happy to see them go, and she would do nothing to try to get them to stay.
Not a good look. Another ex-user mocked Wilson's reversal, writing, quote, bah ha ha ha. I was mocked when I told everyone insiders were updating me. Corporate was planning on leaving if she was elected. Her arrogance and disdain just made them move quicker. The user, a conservative account based focus on the Pacific Northwest, added, quote, again, Starbucks will be out of Seattle for good by the end of 2026. Yes. Yeah.
Sounds about right.
You guys kind of get the gist of what will be out of Seattle.
Pollster Scott Rasmussen also weighed in on X, arguing Wilson's comments reflect broader voter concerns over whether high taxes and anti-business rhetoric are driving wealthy residents and investment out of blue states. Oops.
So, by the end of 2026,
Being
yes.
a bit better.
Yeah.
Oops. Probably not.
For good by the end of 2026, yes. Yeah.
Seattle mayor regrets Starbucks boycott, says Wall Street Journal opinion. Pollster Scott Rasmussen's news service reports on its flipping remarks. It doesn't matter.
You guys kind of get the gist of what's going on here. Clearly, people don't agree with this. You have a Rasmussen poll here. showing 61% of voters believe it is a bad idea for a state when wealthy residents leave for lower taxes. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like a water is wet thing. Of course it's bad, right?
Starbucks unveiled plans for a massive corporate expansion in Nashville, Tennessee, just as Democrats in Washington state enacted a controversial millionaires tax. Critics warned the tax, of which similar versions have been enacted and proposed in other blue states, could accelerate the flight of jobs, investment, and wealthy residents from Washington. See, they'll just copy each other. They'll just do what all the other ones are doing. There's no original thought. None of them take their internal politics into account. They're so busy trying to police each other that they don't actually do what's in the best interest of their people. They see what Zoran is doing in New York because he's far more popular than this girl is ever going to be, and says, man, I have to do what he's doing. I have to stay in line with what the Democrats are doing. I have to play with the party. I have to engage in the tribalism. Otherwise, I'm going to be left out. I'm not going to get invited to the cookout, and then I'm going to be in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like a water is wet thing. Of course.
The measure was signed into law by Democratic Governor Bob Ferguson in March and was championed by progressives. Conservatives and business groups fiercely opposed the proposal, warning it would make Washington less competitive as companies increasingly grow in lower-tax, Republican-led states. As Wilson attempts to soften her rhetoric toward one of Seattle's most recognized companies, critics warned the controversy could become a broader cautionary tale for blue states struggling to balance progressive politics with economic growth.
It's bad, right? And most people with common sense understand that it's bad, except unfortunately we have a significant amount of people in this country who do not have common sense. They're mainly leftists, and they are demanding that Democrats get on board with this, right? And the crazy part about it is that they don't.
It isn't even the Democrats, it's the anti-capitalists. Like, if you were to ask Bill Maher if businesses leaving was bad for a state, he would probably say yes. If you were to ask Hassan if corporations leaving a state was bad, he would probably say no. He'd probably say fuck them, let them leave. His answer would probably be the same as hers. I don't know.
Understand or realize that they're actually really hurting themselves, because tax the rich just means tax the middle class, because the middle class is who ends up footing the bill once the rich leaves, right? And unfortunately, they have to find out.
They don't care,
right? That's just the reality of kind of how this goes. But again, the woke mayor is begging companies to stay, right? Not to leave, right? After telling them bye, she's now kissing up to them because she understands that she stepped in it, right? She messed up with that comment, and hopefully she will think twice before engaging in this type of virtue signal, this type of socialist virtue signal again. But we're gonna see, right? These people love nothing more than power and control. They don't care about the actual consequences of the policies as long as they continue to get elected.
Continue to get elected and get notoriety for the things that they do. Get recognition and validation for the things that they do.
So that's the unfortunate reality of what Seattle and a lot of these liberal cities are dealing with. A bunch of very stupid voters, right, that are electing these idiots in the office who, again, simply just want power. But let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like.
I guess she can't be a complete idiot, considering the fact that she's now realizing that she can't actually do this and continue to maintain the programs in her city or district or whatever. So at least she's learning from her mistakes. That's definitely a sign of progress. I don't know. It'll really depend on how severe the backlash is from the people, from the actual leftists in the state who applaud the idea of sticking it to the billionaires. It'll really depend on whether she caves to them or whether she caves to the actual governance of the state. Could go either way, I guess. I don't know. You see it with someone like Stephen A., where he will say something, and then the backlash on the left will be too intense, and he'll backtrack what he says. I mean, it's possible that she will do this, where she will get enough pressure to come out and say, no, I actually don't care that they left, and we can take care of ourselves, and we don't need big corporations in order to bail us out. I could see her doing it. I don't know if she would. We'll have to see.